Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of RevTalks. My name is Patrick. I'm here with Saumya. How's it going today?
It's going really well. Happy to be here.
Sweet, appreciate you jumping on. Would you mind giving us a little bit of a high-level overview about the actual company, who you guys are, and what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are Donna AI. I'm the CEO and co-founder. We help law firms with admin and clerical tasks so they can focus on law. So one of the things that we noticed when we were entering a legal space is that law firms spend 40% of their time on admin work and clerical work. This is not the work they went to law school for. And that really prevents them from taking on more cases and growing their business. So what we want to do is kind of be their AI teammate in order to take those tasks off their plate so they can kind of do the legal work and grow their business.
Sweet. And when it comes down to AI automation and systematizing yourself or fulfillment, what do you kind of do technically? Like on a very technical perspective, what do you guys do? What problem are you guys solving, and what's the implementation? What exactly is the AI setup for that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you think about a case life cycle, right? At the very start, the customer first contacts the law firm. So there's a task over there that needs to be done, which is called client intake, conflict check, and then scheduling to the consultation. So that's a task we do with like an AI agent. We have a very empathetic voice agent that talks to the customer, understands what their needs are, qualifies that lead for the law firm, and then moves them on and schedules them for a consultation. Then later on, if the customer does decide to retain the law firm, one of the first things that a law firm has to do is collect all the paperwork. And so this paperwork might be evidence from third parties like a hospital or a police station, opposing counsel, or it might be documents that they need from the client themselves. Usually, these documents could range anywhere from 10 to we've seen upwards of 300 in some of the cases. And there's a ton of back and forth, incomplete information, different processes to request it, different channels. And this is a lot of times the most expensive part of a pre-trial process. So this is something we do with a suite of AI agents. We request those documents from whoever it might be in the channel that end person prefers: voice, SMS, email, WhatsApp. And then we'll also guide them through it. How do you gather these documents? Where can they find them? If they're locked out of their bank account, how do you reset the password in order to gather bank statements, for example? And then once we receive them, we actually check it for completeness, make sure it's thorough. If not, we'll follow back up. And so all of that time savings for the law firm while they can focus on other case. And when they need to focus on this case, all the documents are there without any touch points needed from them at all.
Nice, nice. And
Yeah.
when it comes down to getting new customers, how do your current customers find you, or how have they found you historically? What's kind of like the story behind some of the deals you guys transact?
Yeah. So we are still early. We're about 5 months old. Most all of our customers have found us through us reaching out to them. So we either reach out to them over email, over phone call, or we actually try to meet a lot of lawyers at law events. So we go to a ton of law events, practically every single one in the last few months in our city, and then try to engage with them, try to understand their business quite deeply. And that's where we also first understand their pain, and we also understand kind of what else we should be building, what other frustrations or challenges do they have, and what other admin tasks are out there. So that's kind of what we're doing, and then we have like a roadmap of items based on these conversations.
Nice. So a roadmap, a little bit of in person and outreach too. That sounds like a model that obviously works pretty well, especially from a newer company. You want to get in front of them, you want to be aggressive and everything like that. Can you briefly walk me through how the company has grown over the past like 12 months? I know obviously you guys are kind of early stages, things like that. In terms of team growth and everything, how has that kind of been?
Yeah, team growth. It's just me and my co-founder primarily. So I'm the CEO and he's the CTO. He does all of the building, but I come from a product management background and have managed engineering teams in the past. So I'm quite technical as well. So we kind of collaborate on that. I focus more heavily on sales, but my co-founder also helped a lot with that in discovery very early on before we even started building the product. In terms of legal expertise, we have an advisor who's an early customer of ours who advises us, and we can use them as a sounding board. And then we also have a paralegal who works part time when needed in order to give us guidance. One thing I will mention that I slipped on earlier, though, is the big one of the things that we're trying from a go to market perspective, which is quite interesting, and this is kind of letting the secret out of the box, is we're actually working out of courthouses these days. So we realize we're like, where are all the lawyers? A lot of them go to courthouses, and when it goes to trial. So from 9 to 5 for the past several weeks now, we actually take our laptops and work out of a courthouse to try to run into them and understand kind of what their challenges are and whether they may be interested in some of the products that we may have.
Nice. That's a smart approach. You're getting in front of them, being a little more aggressive with it, and you're sort of where they're at already and kind of where they're housed. When it comes down to like the fulfillment, what is, I know you can't speak about a ton of it, but when it comes down to the AI and what you're using, is it more of an LLM that has feedback that's like prompted very well with a lot of with APIs or webhooks, or what's kind of like your setup for that? Because obviously
Yeah.
a lot of businesses we talk to, whether they're in the software or marketing space, are, you know, slowly transitioning more towards AI implementation and having some sort of a product or service that is extremely automated with it. So how do you guys kind of go about that?
Yeah, so we do leverage some foundational models, specifically Claude and OpenAI. It depends week to week which one's doing better, to be candid, as they come out with new models. But on top of the foundational models, the orchestration and then the prompting and the guardrails and what knowledge base to look for, that's all in our system. So we use LangChain in order, and then we kind of navigate kind of what we need out of what we're looking for. And we also have a RAG system when it comes to specific use cases in terms of like what knowledge, what to look for in terms of the documents collecting and things like that. So it depends. But at the underlying thing where you do use a foundational model, but everything on top of it is built by us. And we ensure it because legal is like a space that you have to be very careful. And I come from a background in regulated industry, so I know how to take data security and privacy and personal identifier information as like top priority. That we definitely take that into account as we're building our system. And it's, yeah, we kind of manage all of that ourselves.
I like that. Okay. So definitely some good regulatory cautions and everything when it comes down to data and security and things like that. So far with building the company, what has kind of been one of your larger challenges that you and your co-founder have actually faced?
Yeah. I think reaching out to lawyers is a large challenge. And I'll tell you why. So, lawyers traditionally are, their revenue stream is billable hours. So, anytime they want to, they either have an option of speaking with me for 30 minutes to just have a friendly conversation or do discovery or understand our product better, or they can charge hundreds of dollars for those 30 minutes. So, that trade off isn't really there. So, which is why we found in person to be the best because at that time they don't have that trade-off opportunity. If they're already at an event, they've already made the trade-off, so it becomes much easier. If they're at court, they have time before or after, which is why they can make the trade-off. But once somebody really understands what problem we're looking to solve, we found all of them resonate with the problem. So once we can kind of pull in that make them feel that pain, then they're willing to talk to us again and again.
Nice. And that makes sense. When you see them in person, how do you kind of go about that? Because obviously a sales process online is a little bit different than in person, but once a conversation gets started, it's kind of easy to talk to them more, especially lawyers being busy, having have gone through a lot of school, obviously. They're more, I would think, hesitant to even respond to, especially like marketing initiatives online. I know in person is a little bit easier. What are some ways you kind of go about doing that and kind of piquing their interest in person?
Yeah, I think one of the things is we try to inquire about them. We want to be good listeners at the end of the day. And any conversation we actually start with, we actually start with discovery. We're not those sleazy salesmen. We don't ever think of ourselves as that we want to push somebody into a product that may not be a fit for them. Like we know there's going to be churn, there's going to be unhappiness, lower NPS. So why even do that for a short term gain? So that's never our goal. Our first inquiry is always like, tell me what you do. Like, tell me about your law firm. How big is it? What are some of the challenges you face? Like, oh, we've also heard that these are some challenges in your practice area that others face. Do you face those? And if they actually themselves say that these are challenges, that's the only time we might even bring up that, hey, we're actually working on a product that meets that can solve those for you. If they don't even bring it up, then we don't even want to. We don't want to sell snake oil, for example.
Exactly, exactly. And so out of every 10 lawyers you actually approach, how many would you say are actually somewhat qualified for your products or services? Like how many are actually they can really utilize it, they can really have some sort of core functionality to benefit from it? How many would you say that is?
I would say at least 9 of them, but I would say the severity differs drastically. So, what I mean by that is 9 out of the 10 know some of these are a problem, but they're not their problem. One of the things that we hear quite often is that that's not my problem. I have a paralegal who does that. That's not my problem. I have an articling student who does that. That's not my problem. I have a junior associate that does that. And so the problem is pawned off on somebody else within the law firm. So, I mean, to each their own, everyone can run the law firm as they see fit. But in those cases, like they might just not be the right people to continue the conversation with. And we kind of take the learnings we've learned from there and say thank you and kind of move on. Where we see this problem resonate the most is people who do it themselves. So, and that usually happens with smaller law firms. So, solo practitioners, which make up about a little more than 50% of all law firms in America, is a person who really faces that problem because they're doing a large portion of it themselves. Even if they have a paralegal, they're still involved in it very deeply. Small law firms are also very much deeply involved. Whenever you go to big law firms, and I'm not even saying big, maybe medium and big from like 10, 20, 50 lawyers onwards, they have a fleet of staff who's doing this work. So it just, even though they know it's a problem, it's not their problem.
Right. And especially with kind of this like bridging the gap work, it's you really have to be clear on who you're servicing and then when the endpoint is. And like
Exactly.
I think down the line too, as you guys grow and progress with services and products, you can have a service or product that's systematized like this one that helps out this segment and then carries on the customer journey after they reach a certain point. Then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we also do this and like the end. Then this is like the beginning of the engagement. This gets you in the door, and then obviously after that, you're going to grow to this amount. You know, if the tool is really good and it's really growth, then up from there because obviously like that's like the end goal, having the customer for an extremely long period of time with a lot of, you know, beneficial cross sells, upsells, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what we're doing. So I know I mentioned 2 of the products. So we're actually in beta with 2 more. So that's exactly where we started. We started at the top of the life cycle, case life cycle, as I mentioned earlier. And then we're seeing what are all the touch points of admin and clerical work after it. So the first one after that was documents gathering. But after that, we have 2 other products in beta that we've discovered happened shortly after that as well. And that's what we want to do. We want to kind of go full life cycle until the end. And in product management, which is my background, we call that product led growth, PLG, where you get somebody in through like a wedge product, which might be the client intake piece, but then expand out based on kind of what other needs that they may have based on customer feedback. And which is why talking to people who are not our target market is still beneficial because you may still learn a lot from them about where your roadmap should be headed or what other challenges that we could tackle in the future.
Definitely, that makes sense. And you're based out of where are you based out of again?
Toronto.
Sweet. So Canada and you guys service a US market, is that right?
We service US and Canada.
Nice. What's kind of the primary focus as of right now?
So our primary focus is we're getting ready for a pre-seed round in the near coming months. That's one of the big focus, and the main reason for that is we really want to spread our product even further. So not geographically, but embed deeper into these 2 geographies of Canada and the US. So currently we have quite a little bit of law firms on our product, but we want to actually 10x that in the next 12 to 18 months. And in order to 10x that, we really need to try other GTM motions and create this repeatable process, which requires a little bit of funding.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. It's definitely like an initiative with from all fronts for sure to definitely get it over there. And which market would you actually like really want to focus on more, US or Canada market?
Yeah, so I think I'm a little biased. Like I do love Canada, and that's where I'm living right now. It's been a great home to me over the last few years. So I would love to service the Canada market, but at the end of the day, I kind of have to do what's best for the company. And what's best for the company would be taking a little bit of a market share in the US, just because, like, comparison wise, US has about 400,000 law firms, a little over 400,000 law firms, whereas Canada has about 40,000 law firms. So if we want to make a great impact and do what's best for the company, we do need to double down on the US market for sure.
Nice. You're definitely gonna have to double down on that market because I mean it's like what 10, 20x that. But I think really making a name in the Canadian market is huge too. And obviously it helps in both ways because it's like whichever, area you actually can make your name in, it will still be beneficial for the process of sales in the other regions of the world, obviously. So that's huge. And recently, the focus I know mainly has been on fulfillment and go to market and acquiring new customers. How do you guys balance that as a startup? I know I talk to a decent amount of startups every single month, and they're constantly in the middle of acquisition and fulfillment. There's a lot of different things going on through moving parts. How do you guys currently balance that?
It's a struggle every day, to be very candid. But I think one of the things that we've been trying to do is my co-founder has been taking a little bit more care of the business. So day-to-day operations, product, serving our existing customers if they have any issues. Thankfully, we don't really have a lot of those. But so he's been taking care of the business front and they're helping with a lot of sales calls. I've actually reduced my sales calls and mostly have been just working out of the courthouse and meeting people in person and more focused on the investment aspect. So it's really good when you have a couple of people that you can work on and you can divide and conquer as long as you guys are on the same page and the same mission. And my co-founder is definitely on the same mission as I am.
Nice. I like that. And how did you and your co-founder meet, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so both of us were ex startup founders and we were looking for our next thing. We both got accepted into Antler Venture Capital's Entrepreneurship and Residence program. So, Antler is a VC, it's the world's biggest VC. I think they have about 30 chapters around the world in any country that you can think of from Africa, Australia, India, US, Canada, etc. And they have an entrepreneurship and residence program in some of these regions. So the Toronto one, they get there's like acceptance rate of less than 2%. I may be a little off on that, but around that. And both of us got accepted to this program for like the last fall cohort. And we just hit it off. We had a lot of commonality, we had a lot of similarities, and we had a similar mission and drive when it comes to what we want to do in our careers and what we want to do as entrepreneurs. So it really worked out.
Nice. I like that. And you mentioned previously you were at a other startup. Did you end up selling that or exiting that or leaving that or what was that kind of like?
Yeah. So a few years ago, so previously I was kind of leading product at the financial lending startup where I was part of the founding team as the first product hire. But that wasn't my company per se. But it was still very nice to see that grow from like zero to much higher that we are now. And we were one of the fastest growing fintechs in Canada. But prior to that is when I had my last startup, which was a direct to consumer brand for men. Actually, it was men who wanted to get into skincare. It was like the first step into that. So it was quite different because we went from direct to consumer to B2B. But that was still great experiences, which kind of taught me all the lessons that I'm using today.
Definitely, that makes sense. I like that. It sounds like you had a good like route from having experience at prior startups to then really moving down the line and then investing and being in different, investing your time and all of your assets into like different markets and everything. Because obviously the law market is not easy to market to, and it's also not easy to get in fulfilled to as well. It's very much different out of all the markets that like we've serviced as well. And where can we find the startup website? Where can we find you on the internet? Where are you?
Yeah. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active there. I talk about my views on the legal tech space and the law industry as a whole. So you can find me at LinkedIn. My name is Saumya Banker, linkedin.com/in/Saumya Banker. You can find Donna at donnaanswers.com. And yeah, you can follow our journey there.
Sweet. I appreciate you taking some time out of your afternoon to jump on, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Patrick. Appreciate it. This has been wonderful.